Hello folks, finally it is PS Vita's time on this channel. Most of you probably already know that we can now play Vita game on Android smartphone as well. So I decided to put the Steam Deck and Android Vita emulator in this one video. I will compare 10 games performance side by side between each system at the beginning of this video. I hope this helps you make a better decision about which system you will use to play Vita games. The Vita3K emulator is still in its earlier stage, so don't expect all games to run on it. Here is a compatibility list for reference, just based on my own testing. Even if the game is shown as playable on this list, it may not even run. And yes, the complete tutorial for playing Vita games on both Steam Deck and Android smartphones is included in this video too. Now let's test out 10 PS Vita games on both systems. The first game is Uncharted Golden Abyss. The game booted up successfully on both systems, but the game on Android is stuck on this screen, and I was not able to process it further. I tried again, and it stuck in the same place. Apparently this game is unplayable on Android. With Steam Deck, I successfully passed this screen and booted into the game. But the game is totally in dark mode, which made it unplayable too. The next game is Gravity Rush. I booted up the game same time on both devices. The one on Android completely crashed after 10 seconds. On the other hand, the Steam Deck was made through everything at the beginning. After I got into the actual gameplay, the image was totally distorted. The color was missing on most of the stuff. This is absolutely unplayable. The third game is Street Fighter and Tekken. Both systems successfully booted into the game. On the Steam Deck, I got a black screen, but working audio. I tried few times with the same results. But on the Android side, the game performs really well. There are no issues at all. The next game is Velocity 2X. The game successfully booted up, but once I started playing, both systems become stuck in the game after 5 seconds. The fifth game is Hotline Miami. This game was booted up successfully on both systems, but the one on Android stuck on this screen and couldn't boot into the game. With the Steam Deck, this game performs extremely well. We have constant 60 FPS and zero issues with this game. The next one is Wipeout 2048. The game booted up without any issues. However, with Android, it crashed the Vita3K emulator. This game's graphics looks terrible on Steam Deck, and we only have 50 to 20 FPS. I think this is unplayable too. Let's move to the next game, Asphalt Injection. On Android, it loaded successfully, but remained stuck on the screen with Steam Deck. This game is still enjoyable on Android with a big screen. The next game is WRC5. The game is loaded up on both systems, but for Android, the game is stuck on this screen. The game is still playable with the Steam Deck, even we only have 20 to 30 FPS. Okay, let's move to the next game, Killzone Mercenary. This game failed to boot up on both systems. It crashed the Vita3K on Android. The Steam Deck just got a black screen. The last game is Skyforce. This is the only game that can boot it up successfully on both systems, and it played perfectly fine on both systems too. This is a relatively small game, so that's why it runs so well. Here is the summary of my test result. I believe that playing Vita games with the Steam Deck is still a better option than Android, because it comes with a built-in controller. In this video, I have already provided both Steam Deck and Android tutorials, so it's up to you to decide which system to use to play Vita games at the end. Now we can move to the tutorial section. The EmuDeck installation is pretty easy. I will quickly explain the installation process here. I will only cover PS Vita emulator in this video. First, we need to switch to desktop mode on the Steam Deck. From desktop mode, use your Firefox internet browser and go to EmuDeck official website. I have the EmuDeck linked in my video description. From this website, we can directly download the EmuDeck installation file. Once it is downloaded, we can click Show in Folder. We need to copy the EmuDeck installation file onto our desktop in order to process this installation, and this is mandatory. Then we can double-click on the EmuDeck installer from the desktop. Click Continue on this pop-up window to confirm this installation. Let's select Custom Mode here, which will give us more options to set up the EmuDeck. Then click Continue. I highly recommend to use SD card for your emulation games. Even with E1 type SD card, it works perfect with EmuDecks. So we will pick SD card as storage here. On this page, obviously we need to select Steam Deck. On this screen, it shows all emulators that are currently supported by EmuDeck. I will disable all the emulators except for the PS Vita emulator, which is called Vita3K. Also, I would like to point out that if you already have emulators installed on your Steam Deck, you should disable those emulators on this page. Otherwise, this installation will overwrite your existing emulators. You can always come back to this page and install any emulators that you like later on. Then click Continue. On this page, make sure you turn off the emulators that you have already installed on your Steam Deck. If you forgot doing this, the EmuDeck will overwrite your existing emulate settings, so please keep this in mind. I will only leave PS Vita emulator on here. Then we can click on Continue and move to the next page. On the next couple pages, you can pick any options you like. It's all about your personal tastes for the emulation game. Then just click Next. This is the new page that EmuDeck just added, and I think this is really helpful. This page will basically tell us what will be installed and what will be configured on our Steam Deck by this installation. So please make sure you check everything here before you click on the Finish button. It is very critical to check here to make sure any of your existing emulators are excluded under the first two columns. If you forget to exclude them, this installation will overwrite your existing emulator's setting and configurations. After you make sure everything is correct on this page, then just click the Finish button to process the installation. The EmuDeck now start processing all the installation. It will take about 2 minutes to complete everything here. After everything's done, we can click Exit. Now we have completed the EmuDeck installation on the Steam Deck. The original EmuDeck installer is now changed to EmuDeck access icon on the desktop. That's all for the EmuDeck installation. After Vita3K was installed from EmuDeck in Chapter 1, now we can head to the Start menu. Then All Applications, find Vita3K from the application list, and double-click to run the emulator. On this page, we need to download the Vita firmware and firmware font package. Let's start by clicking Download the firmware, which will take us directly to the download page. On this web page, and click Download Update to get PS Vita firmware. Make sure you click Allow Download from the top right corner of the Firefox browser. The firmware will be downloaded onto your Steam Deck. Then we can minimize the internet browser and go back to the emulator and click Download the firmware font package. The firmware font package will automatically start downloading, so we should now have 2 files downloaded. They are stored in your download folder. We can now close the internet browser and back to the emulator. We should uncheck the box in front of Show Next Time, since this process only needs to be done once. Then click Close. Click Create User. You can name a user here, but I will use default user 1 as a demonstration here. Click Confirm to create the user, then click OK. Next, check the automatic user login box and click user 1 to log in. This is the Vita screensaver page. Make sure you click the R2 button or left click on your mouse to remove the screensaver page. Then go to the top menu, select File, and click Install the firmware. Pick the firmware that we just downloaded at the beginning. Then click Open to process the installation. We can check the box Delete the firmware installation file, which means the firmware file will be automatically deleted after this installation. Then repeat the same process to install the other firmware file. After two firmware files has been installed, the system interface will now look like the real PS Vita interface. There is a tricky setting that we need to change here, otherwise the game will not have audio in Steam Deck gaming mode. So from the top menu Configuration and select Settings. Under Settings, pick the emulator. We need to change the audio backend from SDL to CUBEB type. Then we can click Save. If we don't do this change, all games that launched from Steam Deck gaming mode will lose audio. So this is all for Vita3K setup and optimization. Before we start the game installation, it's better to check the game compatibility list first. Make sure the games that you are going to install are marked as playable on this list. I have this website linked under this video description. Just keep in mind that some games marked as playable on this list may also be unplayable with the Steam Deck. Now let's look at the game format. The game format working with Vita3K is very limited right now. Try to use only zip format games. The VPK will not work with Vita3K right now. If you have 7-zip format games, you need to extract the 7-zip file and repack as a zip file. I prefer to do this process on a Windows PC. So here is my Windows PC screen. We can just simply select the 7-zip game and then extract the game. Now you should have the extracted folder here. Select this folder and repack it into zip format. Now we will be able to install this game with Vita3K using the zip format. After we have all the game files ready, now let's go back to the Steam Deck and launch the Vita3K from the application list. If the update pops up, just ignore this. The update is not working from EmuDeck at this moment. I hope they can fix this problem soon. All my game ROMs are stored on this external hard drive, so I will plug this external hard drive into the Steam Deck to install all the Vita games. From the top, select File menu and click Install Zip and VPK. Then click Select File. Now we need to navigate to the location where your Vita files are stored. Here are my Vita games that are stored on the external hard drive. Of course, you can download the Vita game and have them stored in your Steam Deck directly. I will just pick the first game from the list to install it as an example here. So you can repeat the same process for all other games. Once the installation is complete, we can click OK. Now we should see the game show up on the Vita desktop. This means the game has been successfully installed. I will repeat the same process for 5 games here in 20 times speed. If the game is more than 3 GB, it will take about 3 minutes to install, just keep this in mind. As we can see here, I already have 5 games installed on my Steam Deck. We can boot up games from here directly, but the best way to boot up the game is from the Steam Deck gaming mode. So next, I will show how to bring the game into Steam Deck gaming mode. To do this, we need to click the EmuDeck icon on the desktop and then click Tool and Stuff. From here, we need to select Steam ROM Manager. Click Yes for this pop-up window. First, disable the parsers, otherwise the EmuDeck will scan all the game ROMs. I recommend only enable the emulators that you are going to use, and disable the rest of them. Since we only deal with the PlayStation Vita emulation in this video, so I will only enable PlayStation Vita installed PKG here. Then we can click Save button on the bottom left side. Then we need to click on the Preview button from the top left corner. Then click Generate App List from the bottom of the screen. We can now see all the Vita games that we have installed in Vita3K show up here. Also, we can change the game album picture from here, but for now we can just click Save App List button. This will create the game title on our SteamOS interface. Now we can just close EmuDeck and return to the Steam Deck gaming mode. After we get into the Steam Deck gaming mode, just go to the library. We will see there are two new tabs show up. One is called Collection. Under this tab, it will classify emulation games by the emulation system. The other tab is called No Steam Game. Under this tab, you will see all the emulation games that have been installed on the Steam Deck. From here, we can just boot up the game. Let's try out with the Skyforce. So the game started up successfully. There is no issue with the gameplay either. This is pretty much all for how to install games and how to bring the games into the Steam Deck gaming mode. It's pretty easy to install PS Vita Emulator on an Android smartphone or tablet. So open the internet browser on your phone and search for Vita3K on Google. Click the first website that shows up as 3Vita3K. This is the Vita3K official website. We need to scroll down the page and we will see the Android build. Just click grab from the GitHub. Now we are transferred to the GitHub website. Move down the page and we will see the Vita3K Android release APK. So click on the APK file and start downloading the emulator. Click open the download file and then click install the Vita3K emulator. Once the installation is complete, we can click done. Then close everything here. The Vita3K emulator should show up on your homepage or application list. Then click Vita3K to open the emulator and pick your preferred language. I will use English here. Then click next. On this page, we need to download the Vita firmware and font package. Then install both of them. Let's start with downloading the firmware first. Move down this web page and we will see the download update icon on the page. Click this to download the firmware. If the download wouldn't start, try to hold on the download update button for 2 seconds and select download link. Make sure you click to keep the file on this pop-up message. After this download is finished, we can switch back to Vita3K emulator. Now we need to click on download the font package. The download will start automatically for this one. Once this download is complete, now we should have 2 files just downloaded in the download folder. Now we can switch back to the Vita3K emulator and start installing those 2 firmwares. Click on install firmware file and select the 2 files that we just downloaded. We only can install 1 file each time. Select install firmware file again and pick the second firmware file to process the installation. Now we have both firmwares installed. Then click next. I will keep everything default on this page. Click next. Now we have completed the setup and the Vita3K is ready to use. Click OK here. Just close this page. We have already done everything on this page. Click the plus sign to create a new user. You can type any username here. I will keep the user 1 as demonstration here. Now we can click on the user 1 to log in the homepage and swipe up to exit the screensaver page. Now we are at the homepage of the Vita3K emulator. We were able to see all the games and applications on this page. Now it's time to install some games. All my Vita games are stored on this external hard drive. I will plug this into my Android phone so I can install the game from the external hard drive. Click the file from the top menu and select Install Zip and VPK. Then pick Select File. We need to navigate to the location where your Vita games are stored. In my case, I need to go to the external hard drive location to install my Vita games. So the USB storage device with 4.5 TB space, that is my hard drive. We can see all my Vita games are here. They are all in zip format. I have tried with VPK format, but they all failed to install. So try to stay with zip format games. If you have 7-zip format games, please check my video description for a good solution. Let's pick the first game, Asphalt Injection, to install here. The installation is pretty quick, it only takes about 30 seconds. If the game is more than 3 GB, it will take about 2 minutes to 3 minutes. Click OK once the installation is done. We can now see the asphalt injection show up on the home screen. If we click on the game from here, it will boot up now. Everything works really well in this game. The game booted up without any issues.
Nobody walks in the city of angels, and while you won't find angels or pedestrians on this track, look out for jumps so high they'll bring you closer to asphalt heaven. We don't know about theory. Three, two, one, go!
There is no lag or audio problem. The one problem that I can see right now is that the face buttons are off the screen on my phone, but we can actually place any of those virtual buttons at any spot we like on the screen. So to change the on-screen button's location, from the top menu click Controls, then select Overlay, and click Modify Gamepad Layout. Now we can drag the on-screen buttons to any position that we prefer. This is pretty much all for running PS Vita Emulator on Android. I really appreciate that you stayed until the end of this video. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the Vita3K is still in its experimental stage, but at least we can play around 400 titles with Steam Deck and Android with the current Vita3K states. I will make an update video once the emulator's performance improves later on. As always, thanks for supporting my channel, you are always the best one here.